Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I am your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Bryce Hillig from local Green Bean. Bryce is a qualified horticulturalist doing garden maintenance, and he's also in the process of studying landscape design, which he just recently had to defer for a little while because he was awarded with a opportunity to go over to France and work in Monet's garden for a couple of months. So he's just recently got back from that. So he plenty about what it was like working over there and how that experience was, and also some of the other gardens that he saw while he was overseas in Europe. And it's a good example of how you can start out on your own, but you don't have to jump with 2 feet in. So he was working for another fella in maintenance, and then started doing his own projects, and he's still working for 1 or 2 days a week for the previous fella, until he's got enough of his own work. And he's continuing to do that, and also looking to build relationships with the landscape designers, so that once he's studied that and got his knowledge up, he's going to have a broader range of skills and understanding of different ways to do things. And he's also maintaining some gardens for other designers as well. So he's going to see a more behind the scenes view of how they were designed. So he's doing a lot of things right early in his career. So it's an enjoyable chat with Bryce. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Bryce Hillig. Bryce, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Thanks for having me. So how I started was always been a nature kid, always exploring and stuff like that. We went camping a lot as growing up. And then we end up buying a farm about 2 hours out of Sydney. So yeah, just always around the farms, cattle, chickens, and just surrounded by nature. And so yeah, that really like cemented childhood, and also going to like a alternative school, Rudolf Steiner, alternative learning, very hands-on approach, nothing by the book. And they also taught like gardening and or like life skills like throughout to that. So that was really quite cool.
Mm.
By having that as my from year 3 to year 9, most of my schooling life, and then went to a mainstream school, and then yeah, went into a mainstream school, then did all those years, the HSC and all those things. And then I was like, what should I do? And I really liked people and supporting people. And I was actually on a path of like social worker and community services. And then I was like, that's great, but I feel like I need some life experience and after finishing the qualification. So then I started working with a family friend who did some pre-sale makeovers and made the house look all pretty before it got sold. That was really fun because he was in banking 25 years before doing this. So I had life experience in just doing that. And he had a wealth of knowledge from being working in America and then back here in the big four banks. So yeah, good working with him. And then I thought I could do it myself, just watching what he was doing. So yeah, went to Ride TAFE, did horticulture, and then I just started my own business on the side of working with him. And I'm slowly getting more full time as time goes on. I still subcontract with him as time goes on. And yeah, it's been really good. And then in this last year, was going to study landscape design. So I did the first 6 months, and then I deferred because I got asked to work in Monet. So that was really cool. In France, in the garden there. So I was working there 8 weeks just as an intern gardener. So that was really cool. So yeah, just onto little progressions. Yeah.
So how did you get asked to work at the Monet garden?
So Graham Ross, the grey old guy on But Homes and Gardens, he is runs this scholarship program, and I don't know if you know the scholarship program, but it's aimed at like under 25-year-olds that are interested in horticulture and try and get them into trades and stuff like that. So he basically was trying to fill this Monet position, and no one wanted to work in Monet. And since he's kind of a friend and also a client, he asked me if I wanted to work there. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. So I spoke to them directly, and then like they're like, yeah, we can take you on for 2 months if you'd like. I'm like, I'll take what I can get. So some people are there for a month, 2 weeks. So I managed 2 months. So just got back 3 weeks ago. So yeah,
Were you
very
getting
recent.
paid to be there? Did you just have to make your way there and you were getting paid to be there, or how did that work?
Yeah, so since I'm self-employed and don't have any employees, I could take as much time as I wanted off, especially being winter. It wasn't really paid, it was more like a voluntary kind of thing. But with the France laws, or I think the EU, you have to get some sort of payment. So it's like bare minimum wage, but you get accommodation, but nothing else. It's just a really full experience.
Yeah.
And very much like an intern. Yeah.
And so, and how much? What was the lead up to that? Like, how long before did you know that you were going before you actually went?
Probably like only like 2 months minimum.
That's
Well,
right.
maximum. Yeah. So, but most people when they find out, they get the scholarship and then they do a placement there and then they go on to another garden, mainly in the UK though. So they find out a lot sooner. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You almost want to go sooner. As soon as you find out, I
Yeah.
imagine you can to get over there.
Yeah. I know people that waited because of COVID.
Yeah,
So they all banked back. So they all went last year. So, yeah, really cool to be over there. Mm.
yeah. That's similar. What happened to Ben Heyman? He was lined up to go to Great Dixter, I think it is called,
Mm. Mm.
and then COVID happened. So, but he
Mm.
just went in the last few months as well. So,
Yeah, well, it's quite funny because I was over last year. I went to, it was like, it's my birthday, my 25th. I was like, I have to do something big. So I was like, let's go to the UK for a month because that's where all the gardens are. So I got a camper van, went to Chelsea Flower Show first, and then got in the camper van, traveled around and saw about 20 gardens, including Great Digstar, Sissinghurst, and then head up north and seeing all those gardens. Very inspired
good imagine.
back from that trip.
So,
So
you're 25 now, are you?
turned 26 this year. Yeah.
26, and you've seen most of the gardens that people who are in their 50s and 60s still would have loved to have seen.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, should I do a traveling business? Like instead of this maintenance thing, I'd love the idea of it. So maybe that's when I'm
Yeah,
older and wiser in
yeah, it's a good way to do it.
yeah, and get paid
And
to see beautiful gardens across the world.
then
So
you'll be competing with Graham Ross.
or just work for him. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That would be living the dream.
Mm,
When you went from your like from year nine into the mainstream school,
yeah.
was that really hard for you? Because when I was at
Mm,
school, we were learning. It was a mainstream school, and we were
mm,
just learning things. I was thinking that's completely irrelevant. I'm never going to use this in my life. And
mm,
you've had experience at a school where you're learning, real life skills,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you have to go to one of those schools. So was that hard?
Yeah, it was hard in some ways. I think like the life skills I learned, for example, was like building a bike shelter with the class for maths because we used measurement and as being, as a landscaper, use lots of different maths. So that was our maths class.
Yeah,
So going to a mainstream school was very hard. I think my parents did a great job on picking two schools that I could choose, and they were very supportive on learning. So it was very much like, we'll guide you through the HSC, and I just wanted to say I did HSC at the end of the day. I had a great time. I did all the social things and all the social activities. Grades weren't probably the best, but never checked my results. But yeah, got through, and I think yeah, it was a big learning curve that I think year 10 was the perfect year to move across because there was a few more new people from other schools coming across as well.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. There's
Mm.
not many clients who ask to see my VCE results, so it's
Yeah.
not that
Which is
not
like,
that big a deal if you're not going to go to uni.
yeah, exactly. Mm.
So you're
Yeah.
still do you said you're still sort of part time and doing a bit of subcontracting. Are you looking to go full time doing all your own
Well,
work eventually?
yeah, since being back, it's been all my clients and just catching up with that. So I still work with him like on a very casual basis, probably 1 day a week before I went away. It's good just to have someone, and I feel like because I'm not working with anyone or I don't have any employees or anything, it's nice to have that connection with someone, not just the brief conversations that you're having with your clients. Maybe, I don't know. I kind of like since moving to like over the next few years, moving to design, I feel like, or working in the design field of the industry, would be good to work with some designers. So just to get that experience, because I actually don't have much experience in it. So like actually learning what the process is from like meeting with the client all the way to an end result. So I've reached out to a few and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I enjoy working with him here and there. So yeah, it's kind of good having that connection with someone that's like you can just rock up and the work's planned for you sometimes as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah. That's a great way to start a business is having someone like that who's happy for you to go back as you need to or as you
Mm,
want to.
mm,
So you don't have to do. It's not a cut and dry thing where you're black and white. You're doing all your work by
mm.
yourself now, so you can actually go back and work.
Yeah. And I think we work well together because yeah, he is a family friend, so you don't want to like ruin that relationship too. And like he's just happy to be in part of that and he wants to learn off each other. So like he hasn't been in the industry. We've been in the industry pretty much the same time, even though
Yep.
he's a lot older and stuff like that. So yeah, it works well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when are you getting back into the design course at the like start of next year? Is that when it starts
Yeah,
up
so I've
again?
deferred for these 6 months because of going away. So then pick up next year. So
Yeah.
I'm probably doing night classes instead of day because I feel like that's going to be a lot worthwhile. But yeah, that would be really good moving to that. Yeah.
And then you're looking to just sort of work, doing design for designers. Is that to sort of get that side of things under your belt?
Yeah, well, just to be in that conversation of just what it means to be in the design field. I have reached out to a few, and a few got back to me. Like I've heard on the podcast previously, Bates Landscapes from Michael Bates. I reached out to them, and they've asked if I wanted to do like their maintenance. So they've already got someone doing it. So if we can work out something in the next few weeks that we can work together on, like take turns on different properties and stuff like that across Sydney. So that'd be really cool. If he does I do the north, he does the east. So or whatever it works out. So yeah, getting those contacts out, and yeah, I love reaching out to random people on just yeah, I like that. Mm.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it as well. Like if you can work for a designer who's got projects that they maintain, then you
Mm.
can also possibly meet them there and they can explain the way they've designed things and why they've done this and that. So you're actually seeing it from their point of
Mm.
view as well, not just
Yeah,
maintaining it.
yeah, definitely. I think it benefits them as well because they want someone to maintain their garden, so that keeps their brand right. And if yeah, exactly works both ways. So
Yeah. Yeah, because they might want something trimmed a certain height where it
yeah,
grows twice as big, but they want it kept low for whatever reason. So yeah, that's
yeah.
a great relationship to build.
Mm. So yeah, I'm just trying to build those relationships because yeah, I feel like my business name's the local green bean. It's at the moment, I really want to change it, but at the moment it's local green bean. Um, I think it tracks like very much like your grandmother's gardener, and I
Yeah.
think I love that. I think I have a lot of cups of tea and having like a bit of like counseling along the way because they might be lonely and stuff like that, which is really nice. So but like also like that's not much growth in like so feeling like reaching out to landscape designers or architects would really good and be growing my business into something more like I don't want to say horticultural because it quite is because most of them are gardeners already from the gardening club I go to and stuff like that. So but yeah, I think just another step forward into growing into more of industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you joined the Landscape Association or anything like that to get meet more people?
Yeah, so I joined this year to be part of the LDI, which was
Yep.
being really good. So like I saw all the events that were on when I was away. I was like, they look so good. Can't wait to be part of them. But yeah, so I've joined that and that's the only one so far. That's only a student because being still a student, it's good
Yep.
being on that one still. But yeah.
But you haven't been to any of their meetings yet?
No, no, I don't think so. No. Just the ones that were like yeah. Oh, the Mifkus one, they're like, oh, come down when you're in Mifkus, come down and do that. So that was good meeting some of them as well, but no
Yeah.
New South Wales based ones as far. Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to a few of them at the garden show, and it seemed like a great bunch of people, and just
Mm,
awesome
mm,
for the industry.
yeah, yeah. I will be looking for like a mentor in that because they have like a mentorship program. So
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool to get like some type of mentor that's also in the same area. So
yeah.
yeah.
So going back to when you went over to France, like
Mm.
so, you mentioned before that you went to a couple of other countries as well beforehand. So was that just like part of a holiday while you're in the area?
Yeah, so I started just a bit of a holiday. When I'm not doing plants and all the green stuff, I love cars. So I had to go to
Right.
Germany. So like I went to the Mercedes and BMW museums there, got family in Germany. So I did all those things in Austria. I love coffee as well. So tried out that coffee scene. Then the France intern, which was great. And then I did UK because I didn't have a visa. So I had to go to the UK for visa issues. So I met up with Peter Donegan, famous guest of the show. So, or host, who knows. So that was really good. Really lovely meeting with him. Just like, I feel like such a privilege to meet up with him one on one as like such a wealth of knowledge. And I think as he tells his words and his stories, sorry, his words of wisdom is through stories. And I just really connected with that, which is really cool. It's not just like one line of like who you are. It's like, here's a story behind everything, I think. So it's really cool. So catching up with him for a few days was very special, really cool. So, and then I went to London to meet up with Andrew Fisher Tomlin. So that was good, just very briefly. So catching up with him, and just to be like, this is who I am, and nice to meet you. Just a good contact to know, as you know, so many people in the industry as well in the UK. So yeah, just meeting people on the way. I was just sending them a simple email of like, hey, I'm in the area. Like, this is who I am. Are you available for like 2 hours or so? So they were like, yeah, sure. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's good.
And
Yeah.
then how was it when you went on day one at Monet's garden? What was that like?
It was just like, well, like as went on, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in Monet's garden. I'm not just working in someone's garden. But yeah, first day was just like, what am I doing here? Everyone's speaking French. Luckily, another Australian was there who's trying to find work over there, Ash. He was there working. So he was like, oh, Bryce, it's fine. Like, I've done this before. Here's so and so. Here's the head gardeners. And yeah, I got there just on the end of planting all the irises for the new season. So, like, we planted like 100, more than 100, like 500 irises, and they had to be perfectly straight, all different varieties. So it's very nerve-wracking as tourists and other people like asking you all these questions. And you're like, I can't stuff this up because this is Monet's garden. I'm going to get critiqued from not just people in French, but people all over the world. But yeah, I think time went on and the different jobs changed. I think, yeah, you get the hang of it. And people are like, oh, you can't speak much French, but we'll know what yeah. Here's a job that you can do. So yeah.
Did you learn much French when you were over there?
Oh, very minimal. I wouldn't be able to carry a conversation, but you
Yep.
get kind of the gist. I think it's kind of like if they say like the plant in whatever way that, oh, that makes sense. Like cut this, trim this, deadhead this. Lots of deadheading. I would probably do 1,000 of deadheading on the 8 hour day by the end of it. So just to keep the flowers and the bushes looking great all the time.
Yep.
But yeah,
And did you take your own tools over there, or did you have to start with stuff there?
all supplied, which was really nice. So yeah, no tools were I had to take over. It was all they're like full on sheds and all their hand tools, so which was really handy.
Like fancy brands?
No, because I feel like they just get lost and like then the tourists would pick them up and like, oh, free souvenir. So it's not like, oh, they have like they're moving all to the battery. Well, they have moved to all the battery steel stuff.
Yep.
That's just standard things now. But no, like the hand tools, I would say are pretty standard because they don't want to get them pinched by a tourist coming past. So
Yep. And what's the history behind the garden? Like when was it created? Like, did you know a lot of that before we went there, or did you learn about it when you knew you were
yeah,
going there?
yeah, I learned it as the time went on. So when I was being there, so it was he lived there. It was his first. He moved there and he just rented it. This called Monet, and then he started getting more popular and selling his artwork. And then he could actually buy the place. So he bought the place with his 8 children, big family, and then like changed the garden over time and then made it what his vision was and how he got all his painting inspiration. And then it went something I can't. I'm a bit phasey on part of the story, but then it got forgotten about. And then in like I think it was the 80s, it got rediscovered, and then they started redesigning the garden back to how it was, how Monet had it. Then it went through a lot of iterations of like the water garden per se, like working around that because to attract more American tourists, they would put more flowers in one of the like the people that were like working there. So they started doing that. So there's like very much like a traditional of this is what Monet had, but like changed over the time just to bring more people in. So yeah. Yeah. So it's been probably about the 80s since it's made into how it is today. But it's very
Well,
much like you could look at his artwork and be like, oh, that's Monet. So people come there from his artwork, and the whole house is full of not just originals, but like very close to the originals of his artwork. Yeah.
what sort of stuff did he paint?
So he's famous for that water lily bridge.
Oh yeah.
Over with the water lilies, but yeah, lots of the plants, a lot of I can't think of the concept either. But impressionism of part artwork. So yeah, just all the gardens, and then obviously going around France, the cliffs, and then yeah, lots of like plant related things, and the reflections of light and stuff like that through the
Yeah.
pond. Yeah,
And that's from his place. Some of
yeah,
that. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool when if you can, yeah, you can see something in a classical painting, like a famous painting, and then you're getting to work on that garden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I think just seeing like being there and then like, oh, I'm going to Paris. I have to go see the museum where the big like I think it's 300 or something meters of the water lily of his impression, his big water lily thing painting is. And yeah, just the inspiration behind that and like, oh, I was actually in the little canoe cleaning out the weeds
Yeah.
and like doing all those things because it's just like and tourists are lined around the whole edge taking photos of you when you're on this little like canoe like and it was so like at first you like you don't want to capsize or like fall in the pond because you'd be a laughing stock for days but like yeah by the end of it you're like yeah this is what I'm doing I know what I'm doing and you're just talking to tourists along the way but yeah it's really special like experience to be part of that for those a few weeks yeah.
You'd give the tourists a good memory if you fell in, though. Like
Yeah,
they think they'd
exactly.
remember that forever.
Yeah, and they're like, "Why is an Australian here? Like, they're American or like where they're from?" And like, "How did you get here?" And it's really cool telling the story. Yeah,
Yep. Did you have made any Australian tourists there? Like looking at the garden?
yeah. So lots of them, like most people that wanted to talk, were like on big like trips, like on traveling trips. So like
Yep.
those cruises that go through the Nile, not the Nile, but like riverbeds and stuff like that. So a lot of like the retirees coming through and like, "Oh, you're Australian. That's awesome. Where are you from?"
Not many
So
Kentucky tourists going through there.
yeah, all the fresh 18-year-olds. Um, yeah, so yeah, a lot of East Coast Australians over and everyone else. So yeah, it's really cool having that. Got to know a few of them just by like, oh, this is so and so, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. Show me more. So like on my lunch break, caught up with them and showed them more around. So yeah, and it was really cool because I at 6 p.m. the garden closes, and so we have our own set of keys, so we're allowed to go in there after hours when it's deserted and just enjoy it.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, it was really cool. So my parents came across and my partner came across, and I could show them the first time they're seeing Monet's garden is a private tour after hours with the sun setting, and it was just really beautiful. And just to have that experience, just to be like wandering through this famous garden that's got like so much mental like history besides not just the garden, but it's also painting and people come all across the world and you can experience it just like with a security walking past, but that's all it is. And it's really quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
cool. And have they got many like old school techniques or like the irrigation system or anything like that? Is there anything that sort of old school ways of doing things that they hold on to?
Not really. I think it's just no, I wouldn't say sadly not. That'd be really cool if it was though. But I think it's just trying to keep it looking great all the time. Nothing can be out of place. It has to be what Monet did.
Yeah, right.
Like nothing can be no experimentalness, which is kind of cool. Like if you like the whole like Zen thing, but yeah, no experimentalness. It has to be what Monet did. So yeah.
Did you make any mistakes while you're doing anything there that you freaked out with?
Oh yeah, so many. I don't think I should mention them though. No, I think no.
Bury them.
Yeah, buried them. I think just like where because we divide into three sections as like the workers. So there's there was a head gardener and then three below that, and then there's workers and there's interns and school interns again. So as like the like cutting of different things, everyone wants a different way of doing things. So one section of the garden might be different to the other side of the garden because there's two head gardeners that might have a different way of doing
Right.
things. So it's like planting irises. Some might dig them all out and then plant them straight. Others might just cut the top off. And that's the different, like, it's completely different on things or like deadheading. When pick off each petal if it's brown or anything, or cut off the whole thing if there's any brown. So it's
Yeah.
just like working with different head gardeners. And by the end of it, you learn that. But if you were there for like 2 weeks, you'd be like, what am I doing? But by the eighth week, I was like, oh, I feel like I can do this. And if they can't, I mean, they're speaking in French and I can speak English. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what they're saying.
Just give them a thumbs up or thumbs down with a questionable look and
Yeah,
they
that's
work
it.
that out.
That's it. Yeah.
And did you go to some other gardens in France while you're over there as well?
Uh, just Versailles and the Botanical Gardens. Not this trip, at least in France, as like I think I was trying to limit myself because I knew that I was going to be doing like more human Monet. So I'm just trying. Yeah, I went to Botanical Gardens in Versailles, and that's really cool going to Versailles because that's our foundation that sponsors us all going over. So it was really cool to see, and especially because they're both very French, but they're very extreme because of you could say Monet is very like cottage themed, but then you look at it, it's like very French by all the very straight lines and everything has like you can see the end of the garden besides like a cottage garden, which is like wandering through, and then Versailles completely different. Everything is very straight and very cut. So yeah, I didn't see many gardens when I was in France, but there's always next time. So I'm sure I'll be back going since it's quite far from Paris. You can go elsewhere after that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Mm.
I've seen some photos of Versailles. And yeah, there's some pretty intense hedging
Yeah,
and
it's
shapes in
totally.
there, all sorts of curves and
Mm.
weird and wonderful things. So that looks like a fascinating place to be as well.
Yeah, yeah.
When you've got, so now that you're back, like how long have you been back for?
So 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah, yeah.
And like, have you got a lot of motivation to do things any differently to what you did beforehand, or have you learned a lot from being over there?
Yeah, so I think it's been really cool to see and working in gardens instead of just walking past and like, oh, that's pretty and move on. But like actually working inside of it and like to know that seeing a garden from the first week there to the end of it has changed so much. So I think coming back to embrace the change and the excitement of gardens instead of just like if it doesn't look good, you have to get rid of it. No, enjoy the process of making it look ugly and stuff like that. And actually, I've always enjoyed that, the whole like change. But like clients, when they come home from work, if they see something looking half bad, they will be like, Bryce, get rid of it. So like having that conversation and then moving forward, if I can push them to be a bit more experimental with their gardens and stuff like that. But it's very hard when they really just want to make it look garden, so they don't have to do it on the weekends. But yeah, that's I think the clients that I'm picking up now since being back, or the people that are reaching out, I feel like I can. Oh yeah, I was in Monet in France. I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. Can we do something? And then when they hear I'm wanting to study landscape design again, they're like, oh, that's cool. Can you do my design of my garden? So yeah, it's really cool to have that experience. And people, I think it's a bit of a level of trust instead of like you were just visiting, you actually work there. So yeah, I think the just experimenting in new gardens, new plants and stuff like that, and for clients that might not be wanting just a hedge or something like that in their garden and lawn.
Like, have you got a design style that you like? Like, do you like using perennials so that you get to see that evolution of the plant life?
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think that. And I think coming from like the farm, like having a farm, a family farm, I think having like open spaces and it's just really cool to have like you want unlimited space, but like containing into like a suburban area, you kind of like limited obviously because of fence lines. But I think, yeah, I really like that style, but I like country styles as well. And I think the excitement of exploring and especially like looking at like the use of fun. So like having an in-ground trampoline for kids to play or adults. Yeah, having fun and color. I love color. Being a Steiner kid and a hippie kid inside from my school days. I think the use of color and the use of excitement, exploring and stuff like that for anything. And yeah, so but I'm not a designer yet, so I have no idea if that's possible. But yeah, moving to that. Yeah,
Anything's possible.
yeah, everything's possible in the client
As,
brief. Yeah.
I like how you mentioned the trampoline with adults using as well, because we were doing a project and I went around. I told the client I was going there,
Mm.
and she would have been probably the same age as me. And then when I went into the backyard, and her mum was jumping on the trampoline, so
Yes,
she would
no
have been
good.
in her sixties jumping on the trampoline. That was a pretty
Yeah,
weird thing to go around
yeah,
to. But
yeah. I
yeah,
think
it's fun for everyone.
the use of just having like fun in gardens and the sense of just having like I know like pools are very great and stuff like that, but they're limited as well because it's not all year round and
Mm.
just a lot of maintenance.
Take up
Like
such a massive space as well. Like once you include the fence, and you can't have the fence right on the pool, so you got to push it back a bit, and they take
yeah,
up a
and
huge amount of
yeah.
space.
I think like just a trampoline without those big nets around it, if you can
Yeah,
put it in the ground, it's super cool just to be like, just walk across it and that's it. Or like, oh, it's Ocean Road, the
yep,
rolling turf lawn. Just having that simple like
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of fun in the garden and just having seeing that.
yep. Yeah, we did a project that Ben Scott designed, and there was an existing trampoline, in-ground trampoline on the job, and it just had grass around it. Or there was
Mm,
just grass everywhere on that job before we started.
mm,
But that now only all the way around it is all plants. So
Yeah.
you're sort of jumping in the garden as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so pretty
cool.
cool uses you could do it because if you put a trampoline on grass, it's going to kill the grass anyway. So
Mm,
yeah, there's no
yeah.
point having grass around it. So you can put it in ground and put
Mm,
it around the garden bed, and
yeah.
then yeah,
See something jumping in the middle of the air. Doesn't seem like where it's coming from. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it's a completely different experience.
Mm,
So,
mm.
so you mentioned some of the people who are reaching out to you now, like you're telling them about how you worked in Monet's garden. So, how are you getting those people to reach out to you?
So I haven't got anything from Bates, any landscapes yet. That's still in the works. I'm still in the planning stage. So I'm meeting with Michael Bates and a few other of their, not just the head of design, but a few others in the next, like hopefully this coming week. But the other ones, I've got a good friend that's a real estate agent who's a co-principal in where I grew up. So he's just like, oh, like I just literally got a phone call. So and so referred me to you. So I've quite stayed very local into where I grew up. I'm probably about 20 minutes away from that now, but I would say about 80, no, about, yeah, 85% of my work is in the where I grew up. So like I can trace back my work very easily because it's through friends and friends or it's through like old like people's I've worked at. So which is nice going back there. And that's why the whole localness in my business name has stayed with that. And that's where it all came from because I used to grow up there, keep it local, work in the area. And yeah, it was really nice catching up with like people when you were in their area, like coffees on Saturday, just walking up to the shops and stuff like that. So very community aspect of my work where it all originated from and keeping that really close knit and the gossip that you hear from different people and being trying to be a very positive light in that field. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good thing for profitability as well, keeping them all close together. So if you're needing to travel, like you can do a few at once rather than having to travel 20 minutes between each project.
yeah, definitely. And I'm trying to push that whole like do minimum half a days or hopefully whole days at certain places. So it's not just like I'm even if it's 10 minutes, it's still longer than packing up everything again and then moving to the next job. So yeah, try and put that further, but that's not always the case sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And are you doing anything proactively with trying to get new clients? Like, are you advertising anywhere or doing anything like that?
I have in the past. When I was thought like, oh, this is how you do business, do like letterbox drops and stuff like that, and that worked as well. And I think if I only got one, then I would cover the basis of doing it, just because the time it takes to do. But like, yeah, just looking out for Facebook ads on the different community pages of like, oh, I need this done. Can anyone do it? And then, but not personally. I'm like paying for Google ads or any of that stuff. But yeah, I think at the start it's kind of like where do I go? So obviously the classic trusting with family and friends, and then word gets out that you're studying horticulture and doing these things. So yeah, at the moment no, but yeah, but it's easy to say it's no at the moment when times are easy, when things are growing, and
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
And have you or do you plan on speaking to any landscape builders to try to see if they've got any projects that they want you to look after once they're finished building it?
Not really, but that's probably a really good idea. I think because I'm not like I haven't really worked with any landscapers, and like I'm not like that's not where I want to be going. Is in the like the hardscaping. Like I want to do the design aspect, but like probably would be smart too. But I actually don't know many in that personal level,
Yep.
so like they could go back to like just emailing them and hopefully hear back from them and stuff like that. I think I come from like lots of my friends love the soft scaping and the green keeping, like indoor plants, if it's that, or orchids. One of my best friends love his orchids. And yeah, so they're all like the green side of things more than the hardscaping. So
Yep.
it's not a bad idea. Probably, reaching out would be good.
And what's the goal eventually? Is it just to do design and not do maintenance, or so is the maintenance sort of just until you can sort of move into that area?
Yeah, I know that I don't want to be doing maintenance forever, but like I think at the moment, if I'm still quite young. The reason moving to design at this moment in time is I've got back issues. I had a motorbike accident a few years, like probably about 10 years ago now. Totally fine now, but I was young enough to bounce back from it. But just that internal thing of like, if I get older, just that having the back of my head. So maybe design, but since having the background of like community services and social worker, I would love to combine them both of like horticultural and plants. So I think that's something important in that as well. I think something would be really good to move into that as well, like plant therapy or something like that as time goes on. yeah, the reason for design is just something different, add another string to the things I can offer someone. But yeah, it's hard to compete with someone that's a big established business when it's just yourself. So I think I'll start with my core clients, like my one of my strata places that I work at regularly, a handful of clients that, yeah, because that's good work and I really enjoy those clients. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, therapeutic horticulture is an extremely popular. Well, it's an increasingly popular
Mm,
part of horticulture. So I
mm,
reckon that's a great idea to move into. I had Stephen Wells on real early
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
podcast,
So
and he does that. He's the
yeah.
first one I saw of who did that.
So yeah, I really love the work he does and what he did for the hospital.
Yeah,
I think like it's everyone sees it from like COVID, everyone's locked down and they want plants, and you saw with all the plants getting like sold off the shelves as soon as they got put on the shelf. So it's really, I think, yeah, more people are aware of it, but maybe that's now they're going back to full-time work. They don't realize how much they love to thing with those plants.
no, I reckon there's still it's I reckon if you saw like a graph on the people's interest in horticulture, it would have
Mm,
gone up and then down a little bit, but it wouldn't have gone down to as low as
mm,
what it was beforehand. So people have
yeah.
realised there's that that they like that type of thing. So
Mm.
I think it's it'd be interesting to see what sort of numbers the horticulture industry was before and it is now, like with the amount of people working in it.
Yeah, and I think also like go to TAFEs or colleges to see where the study is at as
Mm.
well. I know Ride was like really busy with like influx of people looking to get into the industry. Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so was Ash working with you when you were over in Monet as well, like the whole time you were there?
Yeah, so Ash. He was there from like May, and he just finished like 2 days ago or something.
All right.
So he's trying to get full-time work over there. And they keep saying if somebody retires or somebody leaves, then you can have a job easily. So Ash, he was a scholarship last year winner, and he went to HitKit in UK. He worked at Chelsea Flower Show. He did a whole lot of other gardens and worked in Monet's at the same time. And he just reached out to the person that does all the volunteering, and he's like, Jan, can I like work here again? And like, oh yeah, sure. So he moved in for 8 months of the year, and yeah, so he's like trying to find work somewhere over in Europe somewhere.
Yeah,
So
cool.
very passionate about the industry, and yeah, it's the only thing he knows. So but he's very passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how many full-time staff do they have there?
So yeah, there's one head gardener. So that's, and then two below that. Sorry, three below that. So that's four, and then you could say three per lower manager thing, and
Yeah.
then us in. So what's that so far? My maths is terrible. Nine.
13
Yeah,
plus
13. Yeah, and then interns as well. There's four
yeah.
interns. Yeah, and then there's four artists intern as well. So yeah, it's a good
Oh,
range
yeah.
of different people. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
cool. You mentioned before that you had a strata property that you look after. So how's that looking after them?
Yeah, so it's really quite cool working with them as they're all quite passionate gardeners. It's only over 55, so they're all like quite retired, but they're all quite active still. So they've all got individually their own blocks that are all like their nice little gardens. And now, yeah, just looking after their common spaces has been really rewarding because they're all like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? It's not just like just doing the hedging and making it look good. They actually have input on what they want the garden to look like. And I think it's just very much like I'm have a relationship with them more than the manager. So it's like just trying to be part of the garden and part of that little community of 8 units. And yeah, they were just really supportive, and they're all very passionate about my own personal life as well, which is like cool. It's not just like come in and do the work. Yeah, which is really cool to be part of it. So
It'd
yeah.
be challenging as well, I assume, because not all 8 people are going to agree on the same thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and some of them have dogs and rip up the lawn and stuff like that. And but yeah, I just listen to the person that's the like most in charge or the most senior out of all of
Yeah.
them, and she's like, if she do whatever she likes doing. So, and it's funny listening to her and her husband disagreeing on things as time goes on, but you just do whatever they would like done. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
We have that unfortunately with some clients where they're arguing when you at your appointment when you go to see them for a
Mm.
consultation. So I thought you said you were gonna I thought you said you wanted this and they
Yeah.
start arguing with each other. It's extremely awkward.
Yeah, and I think you just like you guys can, yeah, I think it's different when you're building something for them, but when you're like doing their maintenance or their garden upkeep, you kind of just like, well, you don't have to agree anything right now. I will be not here today. I'll be here in a few days or a few weeks. And yeah, it's just very entertaining. Well, on my part, and like, 'cause, yeah.
And I saw you earlier this year at the Melbourne Flower and Garden Show. You were
Mm.
over there. So how was that experience? Is that the first time you've been there, or did you come every year?
No, so I went last year, came last year. That was really good. But yeah, this year was really good, I think, because I was like, my goal is just to, yeah, gardens are great and it's a good time to like, oh, great business trip. But it's also like, let's actually meet people instead of looking at the gardens as well. So I walked around with a good friend and yeah, he was just like, oh, this is so and so, this is so and so. So yeah, and actually like meeting people along the way and like yeah, meeting Peter Dongan and actually looking at his garden and then having reflecting on that and then catching up with him when I was in Dublin and be like, oh, what did you think of the garden? And actually like it was a few months ago and I was trying to remember it, but what I was actually seeing and giving him notes and he's like, oh, no one's actually shared that before. So like it was actually quite cool to be like, I'm just coming across and you just asked me a question and he's actually never heard that before in that response. So yeah, and just meeting like people along the way, which is really cool, and being like, actually, this is a great industry part of. Everyone's so friendly. It's just getting over that initial like stepping out and actually or talking to people or message them, and it's easy to be in your head about those things before it actually happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, because you can talk like you can go up to someone and talk to them like, or ask them for something, and the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no, or
Mm.
there's nothing bad's going to happen.
Mm. Mm. And yeah, just seeing more parts of the garden. Like, so I didn't know there was a border garden, the little border that London Design College does.
Yep.
And it's being like, oh, that's actually an achievable thing of like something that's coming from interstate that's wants to move into that like designing area, just to do something like that simple, just to get a name out there or just to experience what it means to do a
Yeah.
meter by meter, not even the big scale gardens that would be love to do that one day. But yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is you saying that you're doing one of the border gardens next year.
I think that's all out now as of like a few days ago, like all the news on it. But anyway, I don't want to say that now. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm.
And last question for you, Bryce, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
Yeah, so I made a list of this of
All
because
right.
like I thought this would be like really cool to like mention lots of people, but I won't say all of them because there's
Oh,
lots
you
of people.
can.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll get my pen ready.
So Tammy, I can't remember, I don't know her last name, but Leaf in Impression. She was the horticulturist in 2021, best horticulturist of Australia.
All right.
She's a host on Gardening Australia, and she does all the indoor plants things. She's super lovely. She does all the like rare indoor plants, so like selling tiny little ones for like hundreds of dollars, and
Yeah.
just that really niche market of people. So I think that'd be really cool talking to her about that stuff. Such a legend, Chloe Tomlinson. Yeah, have you had her on? I don't think you.
No, I do
Yeah,
keep. Yeah, I spoke to her briefly at the garden show, but I do keep meaning to message her. So,
I
yep.
think yeah, such a weapon. Like just always out there in what she does on social media, just like making it so friendly that the non people in the industry can be like so welcome to experience what she has to say.
Mhm.
And Fiona Brockhoff, I don't know if you interviewed her. Have you interviewed her? No, have you?
No, I've tried to, but no.
Yeah, okay.
So,
And then like I have to mention Graham Ross because he sent me to France, so he would be really good.
yeah.
And yeah, so like just to wealth of knowledge, everyone knows who he is. And last person I thought would be really cool is Costa. But yeah, just because he was in landscaping before, like he loves paving, he loves all the landscaping, hardscaping, but also just his community that he brings it to people and just the smile he brings into the industry is really cool.
I
So
did try to get him on as well, and
yeah,
I know someone who's got his phone number, and he also messaged him, and yeah,
right, yeah.
gave me donuts. So Costa's not going to come
Right.
on.
Okay. Right.
He's
So yeah. Yeah.
trust me, I need to call myself the gardening podcast rather than the landscaping podcast. And I might
Yeah.
be in with a chance, but
One more, if I
yes.
forget, would be Michael McCoy, but he's always
Yeah.
hard to get in contact regardless. So
Well, yeah, I spoke to him. I had a good chat with him at the garden show as well. So
mm,
he's awesome to talk to. But yeah, like I said to you just before, like there's a lot of people who are big names who I'd want to get on, and
mm,
I
mm,
think like they would just say no, so I don't message them. But
mm.
can't hurt to message him, and the worst they can do is say no. So
Yeah, and I think
uh,
that's the thing. Like, I just like I reaffirm like everything I'm doing in terms of like when I met with a client recently, they're like, "Oh, that's great," and then they talked about their daughter, and it's our house, this lady from Perth, and
Carla,
I'm
yeah,
in Sydney, and it was just like they gave me a business card. I'm like, I know that name, and it's just so cool that the industry is international but also national, and everyone like is so connected in different ways of what we do, and yeah, from a design or just somebody reaching out wanting some hardscaping done to someone that's looking after the garden or someone that's just retired and wants to grow some tomatoes because they love growing tomatoes. But yeah, just really cool to be part of the industry of like such a broad scale of what we can all offer different people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can't thank you enough for coming on, Bryce. Absolutely loved it and learning about Monet's garden. So, and yeah, just the fact that you get to go over there is awesome. But thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been nice. Thank you.